What an amazing night for American democracy. I'm Jonathan Burton. Democrats swept the board everywhere. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I mean, it's weird to hear myself say I'm happy Democrats won because as a former lifelong Republican up until the time Trump first ran for president, and I couldn't vote for him, and I've never voted for him since, but I still wasn't, I was nowhere near being pro-Democrat. But that's changed slowly over the years. And not that I agree with Democrats on everything now, but I agree with them on the main thing, and that's saving American democracy. I'm very happy the Democrats won the governorships in New Jersey and Virginia. It's very, very good news. And we'll get into that in just a minute. Because whatever else I may disagree with Democrats on, though, nothing literally is more important than saving American democracy. And the Democrats are the only party left that's standing up and fighting for American democracy. So let's save democracy first. And like Liz Cheney said, we can work out all other disagreements through the normal democratic system the way it was meant to be. And we'll do that fairly and squarely, trying to persuade people and change opinions, change hearts and minds. All right. All right. So let's check out these election results. It's really, really interesting stuff. Let's go to Virginia first. The Virginia governor elections results. Abigail Spanberger won by a huge, what is this, 13 something point 57, 15. Yeah, it's like 15%, 15.2%. Okay. Addition, subtraction's a little slow. Anyway, she won huge. Glenn Youngkin in 2021 uh, won the race as a Republican, as a Trump Republican, a MAGA guy. He distanced himself from Trump during that election, but everybody knew he was a Trumper, and Trump was pulling for him, and he won. He eked it out by 2%. Now, you know what Virginia's saying? Virginia is saying no mo MAGA, no mo MAGA. We've had it. We've seen it. We've had it. We're done with the insanity. Bring insanity back to American politics. And I think that's the message from tonight. The message is America is screaming, bring insanity back. We've had it, and no mo MAGA. That should be our slogan, no mo MAGA. Anyway, she beat Winsome Earl Sears 57.5% to 42.3%. But look at this. This is the list of counties showing which candidate did better than the 2024 results. So, in other words, in Fairfax County, Spanberger did 12 points better, a 12-point shift from the 2024 election results for the Democrats. So, in other words, she did 12 points better in Fairfax County than Biden did. All right. Now, check this out. Ignore over here on the left side where you see some red where Earl Sears won these counties. Okay. Here's the key point is this column here. Earl Sears won Hanover County, but Spanberger did 5 points better in Hanover County than Biden did. You see, Republican support slipped by 5 points in that county, even though she still won it. But the support slipped. Look at this. Every county that Earl Sears won performed more poorly for her, for Republicans, than they did in 2024. 6.5 points. Spanberger did better than Earl Sears compared to how Biden pulled over Trump in 2024, last year. Isn't that amazing? Look, the right column here, I wish I could just select one column. Anyway, the right column, everything's in blue in Virginia. The Democrat did better in almost every county. Now, here's a county, Mecklenburg County, where Earl Sears did better than Trump did. But look how much by only 0.7 tenths of a percent. 7/10 of a percent, but not even 1%. She couldn't even get a full percent improvement over Trump. This is why she lost. This is a blue wave. If I've ever seen one, this is a blue wave for sure. In Virginia. I mean, Spanberger literally outpulled Biden by multiple points in all these counties. All these, look, Earl Sears won all these counties: Greene, Salem, Page, King William, Russell. But Spanberger did better than Biden did by 9 points in Greene County. almost 7 points in Salem, 7 points in King William County. Isn't that amazing? The Republican pollsters, man, are going to be crying tonight. Here, look, here's another couple. Earl Sears pulled 1.1 points better, 1.1% better than Trump. Here, less than 1/10 of a percent better than Trump. I mean, it's unbelievable. They have a less than sign next to 0.1. Wow. Now here she did really well. She did 2.3 points better than Trump in 2024. Okay? 2 points better here. Anyway, this is a wipeout, a blowout. If these percentages, the final total isn't enough to tell you 57.5 to 42.3, then these county by county totals showing the difference between this year and last year for the Democrat, all of these in favor of the Democrat of Spanberger. Amazing, right? All right, now let's look at the New Jersey governor's race. We're going to see the same thing in New Jersey. Mikie Sherrill beat Jack Ciattarelli. Now, Jack, this is close to home. He is a big, big, big MAGA guy. He was sending out mailers to people in New Jersey just across the river, um, touting how close he was to Trump. And people in New Jersey were thinking, what's he doing? Does he want to lose? New Jersey's a blue state. But Trump did so well here. Biden beat Trump in 2024, I think, by just barely 6 points. Okay, just under 6 points, 5.9, I think. So they thought, wow. I mean, in 2020, I think Biden beat Trump by something like 20 points in New Jersey. So they thought, wow, there's improvement. We have momentum. We can do it. We can do it. New Jersey's turning red. New Jersey turning red. And I thought, what are they talking about? New Jersey not turning red. New Jersey made a mistake. New Jersey had a little too much hope for change in Trump. And they, put their eggs in that basket. And I think, look, New Jersey, New York, very close. Um, they regret it. That's about all I can say. That's the best way I can put it. They regret it. And Mikie Sherrill, she ran on bread and butter issues. Was very strong on that. And she also ran on Trump issues. She had a lot to say about Trump and democracy. So we hear Democrats saying, oh, they don't want to hear about that. They just want to hear about bread and butter. She did both. Okay. You got to do bread and butter, of course. She did both. People are concerned. People are alarmed now. People are really alarmed about American democracy. Okay. So don't be afraid to talk about those types of issues, constitutional issues, and those types of things. People do care more than you realize. Now, look, the same thing here. Sorry, the same thing here. Look at all these New Jersey counties. Cheryl pulled better than Biden in all of them. All of them. Ciattarelli did not do better than Trump in any of these counties, in any single county in New Jersey. All right. Now, Cheryl beat him 56.2% to 43.2. All right. It's 13%. That's more than double Biden's performance in 2024, where he was just under 6 points ahead of Trump. Anyway, New Jersey, good, reliable state. That's all I'll say. And California, Prop 50. Are we going to redraw California's congressional districts? Look at this. This won 64.6% to 35.4%. People of California resoundingly said to Texas, you ain't going to cheat us. You're not going to steal this election from us. Good for you, California. Good for you. And last but not least, New York City. Mamdani, as expected, but with a much smaller margin than expected, 50.4% over Andrew Cuomo, 41.6. Curtis Sliwa, the the ne'er-do-well, the guy who's always around. He ran for mayor, I think, in 2021. Lost. Always, he will never be mayor. Curtis, I don't know if you know who Curtis is. He's the guy who started the Guardian Angels back in 1979 when the subways in New York were so disgusting and dirty and graffiti everywhere and violence on the subways. And, Mayor Kotz was like, I don't know what we can do about it. So, Curtis started this organization, the Guardian Angels, and they got on the trains and they rode around with the people and they protected people and people were grateful to them. He did a good job with that. But then he became this just mega MAGA mouthpiece on WABC radio, which is the same station where Rush Limbaugh started his national show from in 19, I believe, 88 here in New York. So they all there's relations between all these people. Curtis Sliwa, big mouth, blah blah blah. Never, I mean, honestly, I've listened to him for hours, and he's entertaining to listen to. He's from Brooklyn. He has that Brooklyn accent, which I think is fun to listen to. But he never has anything intelligent to say. He's just a blabbermouth. And I honestly, I think he runs for mayor just to keep the publicity up for his radio show. Anyway, a man named John Castamadidis, I always pronounce his name wrong. He owns a big grocery store chain in the city, Christie's grocery stores, one of the biggest grocery store chains in New York City. And he turned out, came out years ago, and everybody found out he was a big conservative. Who knew? You know, everybody's like, they didn't know the owner of their favorite grocery store was a Republican. So they were a little upset by that. I wasn't at the time. I am now. Anyway, he's a billionaire. He bought WABC Radio in, I think, 2014, something like that. Forget this. Just $12 million. He bought this big, giant, what used to be a big, giant radio station for $12 million. In the 60s, maybe even the 50s, but in the 60s and 70s, WABC Radio, it was music back then, was the largest station in the United States. It was the most listened to radio station in America. It's an AM station. And I mean, in today's dollars, if they had that audience that they had then now, they would be worth, several $100 million. Today, they're only worth $12 million because their audience has shrunk down so badly. When Rush left and went to Florida, I believe he was still with them. I believe they were still syndicating him. They made big bocos of money off of Rush. But when all that ended, I mean, their audiences just shriveled down to next to nothing. To be able to buy that station for $12 million just blew my mind when I read that. But the owner, John, whatever his name is, Customs Adidas, whatever, it's hard to pronounce. It's some kind of Greek name. Anyway, you know what? He Yeah, Castamatidis. Yeah. Anyway, the other day, I think yesterday, the day before the election, he told Curtis Sliwa to get out of the race. He said, "You know what, Curtis? You're going to cost Cuomo the race. You're going to take enough votes away from Cuomo to elect Mamdani." So Castamatidis, big conservative, doesn't want that to happen. And so he told Curtis to get out, and Curtis, so hurt, got his feelings hurt like a little baby, ran out of the radio station and said, "I will never work at WABC again, ever. The owner just told me to get out of the race." So he got out of the race. I guarantee you within a week he'll be back. He'll come crawling back. "Oh, okay, okay. I was emotional. It was the day before the election. I'm sorry. Please let me back." Guarantee it. I guarantee he'll be back. Anyway, so that was kind of funny. The other funny thing was today on election day. Sorry, I know I'm doing this tonight, late night after the election, but Donald Trump endorsed or he urged New Yorkers to vote for Andrew Cuomo. Okay. And I heard that. I thought, wait a minute. Who thinks people in New York, who thinks New Yorkers are going to vote for who Donald Trump wants them to vote for? That's literally one of the things they didn't like about Cuomo. They thought he might be just corrupt enough to be associated or to associate himself after the election with Trump, like Eric Adams, the previous mayor, has. Okay, or the current mayor. And that was one reason they didn't like him. Another reason was New Yorkers are very serious about this corruption stuff, and they're very serious about these sex scandals. And Cuomo was, booted out of the governorship years ago for all kinds of, sex abuse allegations that have been leveled against him by women in New York State government at high levels. So I can't tell you how many people I talked to, and they were like, "I cannot vote for a sex abuser or a molester or whatever, And they're really serious about that. They're not going to vote for that. And especially they thought, he'd been in politics for so long, he's got to be corrupt. Kind of the Hillary Clinton syndrome, they've been around so long, you think they must be corrupt. And so, yeah. New Yorkers were never going to vote for him. But he did better than expected. I mean, a few months ago, he had like 8% in the polls, and he finished up at 41. So I guess that's not too bad, right? But so what do these victories mean? What can we expect to happen next? Well, first of all, don't expect him to roll over and make anything easy. That is not going to happen. And that's not going to happen. But if you look at past authoritarian regimes, when something like this happens, when they're rebuffed by the public, it usually ends up in some kind of crackdown. Usually, when authoritarian leaders are rebuffed like this, their egos get bruised, and when their egos get bruised, they tend to get angry, and when they get angry, they get more irrational. So often it can lead to some type of crackdown that is stronger than what they've done in the past. I don't know, and that crackdown can take, many different forms. It might be, hey, we're going to look into elections and try to rig elections better or something. You never know what it's going to be. But it's already become denial. They're already denying it. They're already calling election fraud on it. And you know what I say to that? I say ignore them. All these things about election fraud, ignore it. Who cares? Look, when they call election fraud, it's gaslighting, and it's a waste of our time to respond. There's no point to respond. Their only point in making these claims is to get us all twisted up in a circle to where we can't do anything else. All right? I say just ignore it and don't even try to refute it with facts. You know why? Because their beliefs isn't based in fact anyway. They don't believe it was election fraud because they have facts to show it. They've made it up. So if they don't believe it because of facts, how can you change their mind by showing facts? It's never going to work. They believe it because they have to believe it because they can't live with themselves if they know that they were crushed in the election. If they know nearly 60% of the people in these elections don't want them, they're all saying no more MAGA. Okay. Anyway, in our current situation, I believe our president, yeah, I think since he's been in office this year, I think he's been kind of soothed and calmed by the fact that so many people who dissed him and ignored him during his first term, they've now bent the knee and given him the honor that he has always felt he so richly deserves. So, I mean, I could see a scenario where he might retreat into that and try to just shut out the bad news, which would be the best case scenario. Shut out the bad news and just, you know, um, surround yourself with the people who say they adore you now, and make peace with that. Make peace with it that way. Or he may face the bad news, but well, obviously he'll claim it's all a lie. He'll claim it's election fraud again. But this time he might get a little more crazy, and he might ask the Justice Department to do even tougher crackdowns on elections in, whatever way they can. In that case, we're just going to have to hope these judges keep holding the line as they've been doing so far. Pretty good job to get us through to next year. Anyway, in other words, the fact that we beat their pants off tonight, don't let that make you think that they're going to retreat or go back and think how they should do things better. They're not going to go back and say, "Oh, we got to change. The people don't like what we're doing. Let's find out what they want and move in that direction." They are not going to do that. That's not going to be their response at all. This is MAGA we're dealing with. They don't respond like rational political people. The response, I think, is most likely going to be something none of us are going to like. It's going to frustrate us. It's going to, get us all twisted into knots. And I mean, I don't know, maybe they could, you know, strengthen what they or beef up what they're doing with immigration. I don't know. They seem to, every time the people turn against them, they seem to go even more into what they were doing that made people turn against them in the first place. So the upside to that is it will turn people against them even more. But you know, I I believe that they'll continue in their current direction. I believe they will totally ignore the will of the people, as they always do. They only, you know, play to MAGA for some reason. They only play to the base. This is why they're so unpopular. They used to say when the Republicans took over Congress in the '90s and Newt Gingrich was the House Speaker, and they said, "Well, you know what? You won the election. Good for you, but now you got to govern." Now you got to govern in a way that solves problems for people. And no one's told MAGA that. No one's told them, hey, you won, so now you got to govern for the whole country, not just your base. And they didn't do that. And this is why they're losing. So, don't waste your time listening to all their gaslighting and untruthful excuses. It's not worth it. Let's just move on and do what we need to do. Let's do what we've been doing that led us up to this point, that led us up to these victories. Anyway, I would expect it to give them further motivation on their quest to find more and better ways to make next year's elections go their way, which is not good, but I think we can get beyond that. And with that said, it's a very hopeful sign what happened tonight. I hope it gives Democrats and never Trumpers hope and encouragement that if we stand together and work together and don't give up, that we can actually beat this thing. We can do it. We've been so spooked. We've all been so spooked that we think, oh, this can't happen, but it happened. So let's hold on to this and remember this, okay? But it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be quick. We got to be in it for the long haul. Um, but for everyone who has been spooked by Trump's victories, oh, he can't win, and then suddenly he wins, and then we're like, Democrats can't win, we're losers, they're losers, and no one can beat him, and Democrats don't know what they're doing, and they're talking about the Constitution and democracy, and people want to talk about bread and butter. Well, tonight showed they want to talk about both, because both of these women who won these governorships in Virginia and New Jersey, they talked about both. They talked about both, okay? Anyway, those fears that we're on the losing side and there's nothing we can do to win, those fears are put to rest tonight. Okay. And that should give us the encouragement we need to get out there right now, starting today. Don't waste another minute to start let's all start working towards 2026. We can do it. We're going to bring sanity back to America. That's what America wants. Stop the insanity and bring sanity back. That's what we're going to do. All right. No more MAGA. I'm Jonathan Burton. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care.